صورت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين ابن علي عليه الصلاة والسلام. Tonight is the night of Ashura. And this night and tomorrow's day, as I sometimes say, is no less than the day of Mahshar. Because the day of Mahshar will be the day, as we read in Quran, where everybody will be running around to find their spot, and there will be no one helping one another. According to ayat of Quran, a father will not be able to help his son, and all of the other relations will not be helpful that day. Also, on the day of Mahshar is when Hisab Kitab is given. Is the day when accountability is done. And if you look at the night of Ashur and the day of Ashur, is how we see people in paradise and hell. And that is the chaos. And for that reason, we remember the great sacrifice that was given. Tonight, you and I are sitting in comfort inside this building. Similarly, millions of Azadar are sitting in the comfort of having a roof above them, on nice carpets, with cooling systems. But you know, the family of Hussein has been in Karbala for the 7 nights, sitting under the heat inside those tents. If anyone has gone for Hajj, and if you haven't, may Allah give you the tawfiq to perform this great ibadat, you have witnessed the day of Arafat, when you have to sit in that tent for a few hours only. But that is very difficult because of the heat of the day. It's very difficult for us to sit in that tent for 4 or 5 hours. But you do realize the heat and the discomfort. Although we have food, we have drinks and everything in our possession, and we can have it at any time we want to. But it's still, and all we gotta do is sleep inside that tent and do nothing in order for that ibadah to be fulfilled. But yeah, we find such discomfort while we're sitting in that tent, that it is a day which is never ending. Who's come back from Hajj, if you ask them what was the most difficult part of Hajj, they'll say Arafat. That few hours that they spend inside the tent under the heat. Now they have air-conditioned tents and whatnot, but still, just remember what Hussein's family is going through. How they're sitting inside this tent. Men, women, and especially the children. I will recite the 6-month-old son of Imam Hussein. But before I get to the Masaib, mothers who come to the majlis, I'm sure they brought their little ones with them. But you make sure when you come to majlis, you bring enough milk for them, you bring water for them. So in case your child weeps and cries, you can go ahead and give them milk. You can go ahead and provide them with the water. But come the last 3 days in Karbala, there's no milk. And definitely there's no water. These are the difficulties that are sometimes overlooked in Karbala. We look at them, we read about them, but as the Shair, a poet said, Shanidan kay buwad misle didan. We only hear about it, and our hearts burst into tears. Imagine those who witnessed it with their own eyes, how difficult it must have been for them. Shahadat indeed is a very high rank. And these people who are being mentioned in this ayat of Surah Al Imran, verse number 169 that I recited. The ayat begins by saying, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. Do not consider those who were slain in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be what? Amwat. Do not consider them to be dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. Rather, they are alive. And what is happening to them? In the Rabbihim yurzaqun. They're being given their sustenance near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shahadat indeed is a high rank. And that's why we've heard a great deal from our Ma'sumin in regards to those who attain Shahadat. Shaheed is someone when his first a drop of blood reaches the ground, Allah forgives all of his sins. That is the karamat and that is the level and the rank of a shaheed. Shaheed is someone who is given the right to do shafa'at for others. Don't take shaheed for granted. Shaheed is someone who will have his own door to enter into paradise. When everyone will be entering and stumbling through the different doors, Shaheed will be entering by himself. Now this might be a concept that will be difficult for some to understand. That what does it mean to have your own private door? But I think some of you can understand. When we are going, for example, when we're traveling, you know how the classes are divided. If you've paid more, you get to enter through the first class, or the business class, or the economy class. You know how the business class and the first class are treated? Obviously, just resembling, no comparison whatsoever, how they will be treated over there. But still, you and I say, well, as long as I can make it to paradise, that is enough for me. I can care less which door I enter from. But that's, again, is difficult for you and I to understand. Similar to how a baby in the womb of the mother, it's difficult for this baby to comprehend that there's a life ahead. For example, if there was means of communicating with this child, if we were able to tell this child that when you come outside, there are buildings, there are mountains, there are trees, there's this, there are rivers, there are oceans, the baby would be like, I can care less. All I need is this umbilical cord and the water that I'm in. That's all I can care for. But we see that if you want to explain to someone that there's life in the hereafter as well, you don't need to use the verses of Quran. And it is quite possible that person does not want to listen to the verses of Quran. You can explain this phenomena to them by this logical example. That if the child in the womb of the mother, and I'm sure there are doctors in the crowd, they'll agree, and if I make a mistake, you can correct me afterwards, that by the 4th month, all of the organs are created. They only grow to their fullest, but they've already been created. All of the external organs and the internal organs are ready in this child. The hands are there, the feet are there, all the feature of the face is there. They're able to tell the gender of the baby. All the other internal organs, the heart, its beating, and all these other functions are complete there. But you ask a question. Does this child need all of these things inside the womb of the mother? He's got these hands. But does he really need these hands in there? He's got these feet. He's not going to be walking anywhere. He's got these eyes. All he sees is darkness. He's got these ears. He doesn't hear anything. But although we have riwayat which mention that whatever this mother recites or says, this child can pick up those things and has effects on him. So it is highly recommended for the mothers that are pregnant to recite Quran as much during these days of pregnancy and to avoid from any gossip or foul language. They should do that throughout their life, but especially when they are pregnant, because this will have effect on the womb, on the child who's in the womb of the mother. But does he really need these ears? Does he really need this tongue? Does he really need the ability to smell? Stay with me, focus, because I'm trying to explain a philosophy that how we can prove the hereafter without using nas of Quran and hadith. But you tell this child, you might not need all of these organs in there, but there's a world ahead of you. When you're born, when you come into this world, you will definitely need your hands. You will need your feet. You'll need a healthy heart. You'll need these eyes. You'll need the ears. You need all of these organs to be functioning properly. So don't do anything to harm them. All of these are necessary for your existence. So here the child, although if he could understand, would say, yes, whatever you're talking about, I don't know, because I haven't seen that world yet. Similarly, when you and I are in this world, there are many pains that we go through. There are illnesses that come about. There are desires that we are never able to reach. All of these wishes that God has placed inside us remain incomplete. So here it begs the question, then why did God create all of these wishes in us if they will not be completed in this world? The answer is similar to how this baby has all of these organs, but he doesn't need them in the womb of the mother. Similarly, how you and I have all of these desires, but they will not be completed in this world. Hence there is a world in the hereafter, after this, where all of these desires of ours will come true. And so here you can prove this logic of having. But there's a difference between the life and the death of a mu'min and a ghayri mu'min. Mu'min knows that he has to live this life and he has to enter the hereafter. Ghayri mu'min does not have this perspective. Amir Mu'mineen, with all the attributes and fadail that he possesses, only when he was struck by the sword and he attained shahadat, he said what? Fustu wa rabbil Kaaba. He did not say Fustu wa rabbil Kaaba when he killed Amr ibn Abdawud. He did not say Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba when he lifted the gate of Khaybar. He did not say Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba with all the victories and accomplishments that he had, with thousands of virtues that Allah, Prophet of Islam had mentioned in regards to Amir al-Mu'mineen. To the extent the Prophet said, if I did not fear the same about my ummah that they will say about you, what the people, Christians, say about Isa ibn Maryam. What do the Christians say about Isa ibn Maryam? That he is Son of God. If I did not fear the same for my nation, or Ali, I would mention those fadail of yours, that if you were to walk from a place, people will pick up the sand beneath your feet as tabarruk. That is, when Prophet hasn't mentioned all the fadail of Ali, we have so many fadail. Just imagine if Rasulullah had mentioned all those fadail, then what would be as far as the fadilat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this ayat, one of the contexts of revelation of this ayah is that after Muslimin had suffered loss of 70 shaheed in the battle of Uhud, one of the enemies of Islam, Abu Sufyan, said out loud that these 70 compensation for those 70 that we lost in Badr. Prophet said that there's a difference between your slain and our slain. Those of ours who are slain today, they are in paradise. They are shaheed. Those of yours who were slain that day, they are not in paradise, nor were they shaheed. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. Do not consider those who are slain in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be dead. No, they are alive, and they are seeking their sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, just very quickly, I'm not going to take too much of your time because it's already late. But we see that Quran, every ayat of Quran has a apparent meaning and has an implied meaning. And that is the reason you can't just look at the ayat of Quran and then walk away with it. What do I mean by apparent meaning and the implied meaning? For example, there are verses in Quran, Surah Hujurat, one of the verses says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqum binaba'in fatabayyanu. That, oh, those who believe, oh, those who have faith, if a fasiq comes to you with the news, fatabayyanu. Ponder, think about it. Don't take his word right away. So this is the apparent meaning of Quran. That if a fasiq was to come, we would take. So the concept of mantuq and mafhum of Quran is very simple. What is the mafhum of this ayah? What is the implied meaning of this ayah? Implied meaning of this ayah says, in ja'akum adilun binaba'in. But if an adil person was to come to you, you don't need to now ponder over it. You don't need to think twice about it. For example, God forbid, someone comes in running here, says, there's a fire. Without second guessing, we'll listen to that person because we consider that person to be adil, and we'll go ahead and evacuate. Unless obviously we've known that this a person has lied before in the past and he's lost his credibility, that's another thing. That's why we tell our children not to lie. Lying is bad as it is, even for fun, even for joke. Do not lie. Why? You lose your credibility in front of others. When the time of crunch comes and you're telling the truth, nobody will listen to you. So here we see that there are two concepts that are being mentioned. One is the mantuq of the ayah. Second is the mafhum of the ayah. And inshallah, I want to take you somewhere when these ayat are concerned. Some people believe that those who have died, they're dead, and that's it. Nothing can come from them. Neither can they benefit from you, nor can they benefit you. So if you were to stand on their qabr, it's haram. And they back up their claim by reciting an ayat of Quran from Surah Tawbah, verse number 84. which says, وَلَا تَقُمْ وَلَا تُصَلِّي عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. That do not pray for those who have died and do not stand on their qubur. There couldn't be any simpler and straightforward ayat than that. Surah Tawbah, chapter 9, verse number 84. وَلَا تُصَلِّي عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. Do not pray for those who have died. The graves in Baqi, in Madinatul Munawwara, you raise your hand, right away you get, Yalla bid'ah. وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. And do not stand on the qubur. That is also bid'ah. They won't let you stand on the qabr. The concept is, nothing can be benefit from those who are dead, nor can they benefit from you. What they need to understand that every ayat, first of all, if you take this ayat and you read the complete ayat, you'll understand whom Allah is referring towards. When it says, وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ فَإِنَّهُمْ كَفَرُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. It's referring towards those who have done kufr towards Allah and His Rasul. Applying the idea and the qaida of implied and the apparent meaning, qaida of mantuq and mafhum of the ayat of Quran, if it was to say, innahum, those who have died, those who are mu'mineen, then this ayat would change. No, stand on the qabr of those who were mu'min, those who were slain in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and pray for them. That would be the meaning of this ayat would be. But obviously failing to understand and looking at Quran from that one angle, they do this tafsir. But it's very clear. And that's why when you take ayat halfway, that's what you get out of it. For example, someone said, I don't pray because Quran says, La taqrabu salat. Because Quran says, don't approach the prayer. It's very clear. It's to read the complete ayah. La taqrabu salat wa antum sukara. And then, hatta ta'lamu ma taqulun. Until you know what you're saying. That's what is being said. La taqrabu salat. That's what happened. A lot of time people use things for their own by mentioning half point and then missing out the remaining half. You want to know the worth of dying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worth of dying for Hussein ibn Ali. There's a person by the name Mirza Taqi Khan, also known as Amir Kabir. In Iran, Mirza Taqi Khan, a famous personality and a figure of his time who fought against, different sects, different inhirafi, sects that existed in Islam. He removed them, got rid of them, and he was killed while he was being oppressed, madhloom. Ayatollah Iraqi said, I saw Mirza Taqi Khan in my dream. He said, I saw him at a very lofty position and rank in Barzakh. Obviously, Qiyamah is yet to take place. So all of those who have died, they are where? They are in Barzakh, Alam Barzakh. He said, I saw him over there, and I asked him that, how did you attain such a high rank in Barzakh? There's no one with you. Remember how Shaheed will enter from a door of his own. So he asked him this question, how come you're at such a lofty place? Is it because you got rid of those, deviated sects and you fought against them? Is it because your death was, came under oppression? He said, no. That is not the reason. He said, then what is it? Pay attention. He said, when they cut off 2 of my veins and I started to bleed, right away thirst overcame me. And I was so thirsty that I was about to ask these people, can you give me a sip of water? But then I said to myself, Mirza Taqi Khan, they cut 2 of your veins and you're asking for water. Hussein ibn Ali was cut from top to bottom, and he left this world atshan, thirsty. He said, 2 of your veins are cut, and you're complaining for thirst, and you're asking for water. Don't you remember Hussein, who was sliced from top to bottom and left this world atshan? He said, I thought of that. The next moment, I fell on the ground, upon the khak, and obviously, I died. As soon as I died, I saw Hussein ibn Ali. Imam Hussein comes, and he says, Mirza Taqi Khan, you remembered our thirst. You did not drink water remembering our thirst. You honored our thirst. This lofty place for you in Barzakh, and the real compensation will be given to you in paradise. This is nothing. What you're enjoying right now in Barzakh, this is nothing. The real compensation you will receive in the hereafter. That's how people attain these high statuses. So don't consider these sha'air that we have associated with Karbala, these different signs. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. These are the signs, nishaniyan jinko hum kehte hain. Similarly, there are sha'air Husseini. This is not my topic, and I'm not going to take too much of your time. Inshallah, I'll bring you towards the Masaib. That it is the time of our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. And one of the most cruel of the rulers of the time is Mansur Dawaniqi. This was the case that all of our Imams are either martyred, they're all martyred, they were either killed or they were poisoned. Because obviously government of the time could not resist, could not bear the existence of Imams, although they were not bearing arms. But still, he calls our sixth Imam one day. And just to show disrespect to our sixth Imam, he makes him wait outside. He wants to go in. He said, no, you can't go in yet. As soon as Mansur orders, then you may go in. So Imam is waiting outside. And then Mansur said, let him in. Imam walks in. There's a fly which is bugging Mansur, flying around. Bzzz. And he's trying to get rid of it. Then he comes back. Then he tries to get rid of it. Then it comes back. Hence the ayat of Quran. وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرُوا اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. He wanted to, degrade Imam. A fly is bugging him. Out of furiousness and out of rage, he says to our sixth Imam that لِمَاذَا or لِمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ الدُّبَابَ. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create the fly? Now at one point your question is to learn something. You ask me a question, Maulana, why do we do matam? Well, to show respect to Imam Hussein. But then at one point your question could be, no, why? It's not to question the reason behind it, but just to go ahead and disapprove it, for example. Here, Mansur was not asking to learn that what is the feature of this fly? Why did Imam create this fly? Tell me some features about it. He's saying it to complain to Imam. What is the purpose of this fly? لِمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ الضُّبَابَ. The way he asked question, Imam gave the similar answer. Had he asked the question from Imam, learning the features of the fly, the purpose behind its khilqat, because Allah has not created anything in vain, Imam would have given a different answer. Similar to how Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahjul Balagha talks about, Namal, this ant. Imam talks about other, animals, a bat, for example, and all these other animals. Imam talks about them, gives details about the features and the reason behind their creation. But that was not the question. Question why? He asked this question, Lima khalaqallahu ad-dubab? Imam replied in the same way, لِيُذِلَّ بِهِ الْجَبَابِرَ. Imam created dubab so that he could, degrade and he could humiliate those who are tyrant with it. You are amongst them. This is dubab. You can't do anything about it. With all the mamlakat that you have, with all the control that you have, you can't do anything about this little fly which is bugging you. So therefore the answer is لِيُذِلَّ بِهِ الْجَبَابِرَ, so that Allah may humiliate people like you with it. Mansur Dawaniqi obviously committed such atrocities. But nonetheless, in his time, and my point that I'm trying to derive and bring you to is how some believe that those who are dead cannot help. We believe not only that we can help those who are dead, because there are numerous riwayat that I recited one of those riwayat the other night. I don't want to repeat, but just the riwayah which says, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ الْعَادَمْ إِنْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا أَنْ ثَلَاثٍ وَلَدٍ صَالِحٍ يَدْعُو لَهُ صَدَقَةٍ جَارِيَةٍ وَعِلْمٍ يُنْتَفِعُ بِهِ. When a person dies, his amal are cut off except three things. Prophet said, an obedient child who prays for him, sadaqah jariyah, and ilm that will benefit him tomorrow. So definitely those who left this world, we can help them by elevating their status, by doing something on their behalf. That is for sure. But there are certain individuals also who are dead, they can help us as well. That is our belief. Especially if those people enjoy a lofty place in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Plus, don't consider them to be dead. Ayat of Quran says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Don't consider them to be dead. If I'm standing at the qabr of Imam Masoom, he's not dead. That is the reason I'm saying, Assalamu alayka, Ya Rasulullah. I'm saying Assalamu alayka to Ya Rasulullah. Why? Because I believe he's not dead. And if you are capable of hearing, you will hear the reply from Rasulullah, because Jawab salam is wajib. He would reply by saying, Alayka salam. There was a person by the name Ibrahim Mujab who lived in the vicinity of Karbala, 5-10 miles away. And he's buried in the Haram of Imam Hussein. Whenever anyone goes for the ziyarat, millions of people go to the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. They're also doing the ziyarat of Ibrahim Mujab. Why his name is Ibrahim Mujab? Because when he said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Imam used to reply to him, Alayka salam ya Ibrahim. And it's not just that he heard and he told people. Whoever was present there, they would also hear the reply of Imam. What did he do? Very quickly. He had a father and a mother. They were old. One Thursday night, that is Friday night, he would bring his father for the ziyarat. And one Friday night, he would bring his mother for the ziyarat. He only had one animal upon which he could make his father or carry his father, who was old, could not walk. Similar the case with his mother. And this was a service that he was doing to his parents. One day, he was asked by both his parents. It was his mother's turn. His father said, or it was his father's turn. His mother said, take me with you. He said, Mother, it's my father's turn. I'll take you next week. She said, what if I don't get to live until next week? What if I die until next week? Then what happens? So he asked his father, can you stay this week so I can take the mother? You know how parents, when they get older and at that age, it's very difficult to convince them. And they said, no, this is my turn this week. I want to go. What if I don't get to live another week? I don't want to lose out on this opportunity. So it is mentioned that he carried his mother on his back. And he carried his father on that animal that he had. With much difficulty. Yes, other difficulties also. You're in a desert area. He was able to bring both of his parents for the ziyarat. He brought his parents so they can go ahead and do ziyarat. So he leaves his animal. And then he wants to go ahead and, clean up himself to go ahead and do the ziyarat of Imam. When he comes, he said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. He hears the reply, Alayka salam ya Ibrahim. And everybody who was in the vicinity, they heard. Around them, they heard. And ulama have given shahada that yes, we've heard Ibrahim get the reply from Imam of the time. And the only deed was because he took care of his parents in this way. So this is very important from that aspect, how you and I, when we say labbaik, our fourth Imam or either sixth Imam, he was going for Hajj and he would refrain from saying labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. When you go to Hajj, you say talbiyah. Someone said, oh Imam, why don't you say labbaik, Allahumma labbaik? He said, what if Allah says la labbaik laka? I'm afraid that my God would reply by saying, no, there's no labbaik for you. We're saying labbaik ya Hussein and labbaik ya Mahdi. Inshallah, our labbaiks are true. Lest Imam of our time turns around and says, no labbaik for you. Because of what you have done. Because of your amal. Because how you treat others. When the discussion has come for parents, when a person said that, oh Rasulullah, I take care of my mother. She's gotten old. I take care of her. I feed her. I provide for her needs. Even I've taken her for Hajj, putting her on my shoulders, performing tawaf. Have I paid my dues to her as a son? Prophet replied by saying, not even for that one instance when she carried you in her womb. Not even for that one instance. And you want to know why? Fourth Imam gives this reply. Go ahead and read that Risalatul Huquq of our fourth Imam, where he talks about the rights of the mother. He mentions there. He says, you take care of your parents, your mother especially, how they used to take care of you when you were young. You feed your mother when she's old, she used to feed you when you were young. You might even bathe her when she's old, she used to bathe you when you were young. She used to cover you, she used to carry you. You cover her, you carry her. In fact, you can match everything what she used to do when you were young, and now you're doing to her when she's old. But there's a difference. When she used to do it, she did not used to do it because she was looking for any sort of reward and thawab. But when you take care of your mother, you're looking for reward and thawab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, when you take care of your mother, you get fed up one day. How long is this going to continue? Oh Allah, how long am I going to continue to take care of her? So in other words, you're actually asking Allah to remove this, work from you so that she leaves this world peacefully. He said, but when she was taking care of you, she was asking for your hayat and not for your death. That's the difference between how you take care of your mother and how she took care of you. And that is why, look at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It says, نَظَرٌ مَاقِتٌ عَلَى وَجْهِ أَبَوَيْهِ. If a person looks at his parents with an eye, with the sight, with the vision, in a way he lays his eyes with disrespect upon them, with grudge, with hatred, even if they were, zalim upon him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept the ibadat of this person. But as opposed to a person who looks at man nadhara ila waliday, nadhara rahmatin, a person who looks at his parents with mercy and respect, illa wa kataballahu lahu hajjan mabrura. For every nadhar, for every look that he has upon his parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes for him not just any hajj, hajj mabrur, hajj which is accepted in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the respect. We were talking about shaheed. What could be bigger than jihad That too with Rasulullah. Person came to Rasulullah and said, "Oh Rasulullah, I want to come and join you in jihad. But I have an elderly mother." Prophet said, "Go take care of your mother. As long as you keep on taking care of her, you get the reward of what we are doing in the battlefield as jihad." Person came and he said, "Who should I be kind to? Man abarro." Prophet said, "Ummuk." He said, "Thumma man?" Then who? He said, "Ummuka." He said, "Thumma man?" He said, "Ummuka." He said, "Thumma man?" "Abuka." He said, "O Prophet, who should I be kind to?" He said, "Your mother." He said, "Then who?" He said, "Your mother." He said, "Then who?" Then said, "Your mother." He said, "Then who?" He said, "Your father." Just to show the status of the mother. Don't take it for granted. Quran says, "La taqul lahuma uffin." Do not utter the word uff for them. Allahu Akbar. If there was a smaller word in Quran, Allah would have used that. 2 syllables, 2 words, 2 letters, right? 1 syllable. Uff. You know, sometimes when it's difficult for them to understand something because of their age, and we get annoyed. He said, don't even use the word uff. Why can't you understand? وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا بَلْ قُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Speak to them nicely. Spread your wings for them. That's how you should be with them. And where does Allah mention all of this? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. A place where it would be suitable for Allah to say, it is commanded by your Lord to worship no one but Him. He should have mentioned the nubuwwat. What does He mention? Be kind to your parents. 4 occasions in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, be kind to your parents. 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 But on 6 occasions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the parents, don't be too kind to your children. Don't be too kind to your children. Don't be too kind to your children. You know the difference is? Once again, Ayatollah Qarati, his example. He says, when you're driving downhill, you don't really need to push the accelerator. And that's the love a parent has for the children. So you have to stop. You have to hit the brakes. But when you're going uphill, you really need to push. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing by saying, be kind to your parents. Be kind to your parents. So those who are shaheed, first of all, don't consider them to be dead. They are able to do shafa'at in the hereafter. And you can do tawassul to them while you're alive. And I'll give you an example. Inshallah, we'll conclude with that. It's the time of Mansur ad-Dawaniqi. And Mansur is the Khalifa of the time. And Imam Malik is the Faqih of the time. Unfortunately, their Imam is separate, Khalifa is separate. As far as ours is concerned, Imam and Khalifa and Faqih are all same. So Imam Malik was standing in Masjid al-Nabi. Mansur ad-Dawaniqi comes. Now, those who have visited Masjid al-Nabi, you know, if Qibla is straight, Rasul's qabr is on your left side. That's how it is. And then it's Baqi, door of Baqi. So he comes straight. Mansur is sitting there, or rather Imam Malik is sitting there. Mansur ad-Dawaniqi says, it starts making dua out loud. Imam Malik turns to him and he says what? Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. And calls, because he's the Amir of the time. La tarfa'u aswataka fawqa sawtin nabi. Don't raise your voice in the presence of Rasulullah. But he said he's dead. Same mentality. Prophet is dead. He's not alive. He said, no, hurmat of Rasulullah, dead is same when he was alive. And then he says, have you not read that ayat of Surah Hujurat? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tuqaddimu bayna yaday Allahi wa rasuleh. And the ayat continues, وَلَا تَرْفَوْا أَصْوَاتَكُمْ فَوْقَ صَوْتِ النَّبِيِّ. Towards the end it says, أَن تَحْبَتَ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. Do not raise your voice above the voice of Rasulullah. Why? Your actions will be null and void. Mansur Dawaniqi, Imam Malik. Mansur says, then what should I do? He said, should I worship and pray and make my dua facing the Qibla, or should I turn towards the grave of Rasulullah and make the dua? Imam Malik replied by saying, Lima tusarrif wajhaka anhu. Why do you turn your face away from Rasulullah? When your Aba have done tawassul to Rasulullah. Adam, until all the Anbiya, they all have done tawassul to Rasulullah. Why do you turn your face away from him? Imam Malik, Imam of Maliki, is saying this to who? Mansur Dawaniqi. Reference is Qadi Ayyad book, Ash-Shifa. The whole story is mentioned over there. From this we understand that even in their fiqh, they have the understanding, the concept of shahadat is there, and the hurmat of those who are capable of helping us even when they are no longer alive. And that's masumin. And that's what we're trying to do, to seek their shafa'at. I mentioned in the beginning of the majlis that this night is no less than the night of, is no less than the day of mahshar. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, when he left Makkah, he wanted to perform Hajj, obviously, but he was not able to complete his Hajj. He left Makkatul Mukarramah. But Imam was able to perform his Hajj when he came to Karbala. You know, sometimes you hear this riwayah which says that when you go for the ziyarat of Hussein, especially on Arafah, the reward is what? Equal to 70 Umrah and 70 Hajj. Of course, it does not replace your wajib Hajj. You still have to perform that one wajib Hajj. But you get the reward of 70 Hajj and 70 Umrah. Don't take this for granted. Because Imam Hussein left around that time to come to Karbala. Imam could not perform that ritualistic Hajj, but Imam performed the Hajj of reality in Karbala. What do? The first thing, you put on the ihram, right? Imam says to his sister Zainab, bring me that old piece of clothing so that I may put it on underneath my clothes. Why? Because I know tomorrow when I will be killed, they will not leave any piece of clothing upon my body. So I want to have that so that nobody has the eagerness to take that from me. Imam puts on the ihram. What do? You do tawaf around the Kaaba, right? The night of Ashur, Imam has done 70 tawaf around the tents of his companions and his family members. What do? You do sa'i between Safa and Marwa, right? Imam, when he took the 6-month-old Ali Asghar, he walked back and forth 7 times, as if Imam is doing sa'i between Safa and Marwa. And what do you do after you have completed all of these things? You do halq, or you do taqsir. You shave your head, or if you're doing Hajj, after Hajj is completed, what do? You do halq. You remove your hair. Imam and all of his companions, they did not remove their hair. They gave their necks. So if Imam did not have the opportunity to perform Hajj in Makkah, Imam is definitely performing this Hajj in Karbala. You remember that night when we talked about Hazrat Qasim, that when Imam mentioned that these ashqiya, these enemies will be killing your 6-month-old brother, he was enraged. He said, how is it possible? Are they going to come inside the tents? Imam said, no, I will take him. When we recited the Masaib of Hazrat Abbas, we heard that Kulthum rather, she said, who am I going to present as my sacrifice? There was another lady who was worried about giving sacrifice, and that was Rubab. Wife of Imam Hussein is worried. She said, everybody has a sacrifice tomorrow, but I have a 6-month-old. And the other one is my daughter. She's only 4 years old. Is there going to be sacrifice from my behalf? Just look at the enthusiasm and the jazba for shahadat for everyone. Because these ladies know that they themselves cannot fight, but they want someone on their behalf to go ahead and perform this jihad. Imam said, don't underestimate the shahadat of Ali Asghar. Ali Asghar's shahadat for a second will bring change in the hearts of these enemies. And don't underestimate Sakina either. She will be killed in oppression that will change the society and that city forever. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, on the day of Ashur, when everybody has been killed, Imam raises istighatha. Hal min nasirin yansurna. Is there anyone who can help us? Hal min mughithin yughithuna. Hal min mu'inin yu'inuna. Imam will be reciting this istighatha. And when Imam will recite this istighatha, when Imam recited this istighatha, there were three effects of it. First effect of this istighatha was Jibreel coming down and saying, "Oh Mawla, do you need any help?" Imam says, "Go away." Similar to when he came to Hazrat Ibrahim when he was surrounded by fire. He said, "No, go away. It's between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." The second effect was a young man was trying to come out of his tent holding on to a sword, while a lady is trying to pull him back. That was Sajjad, Zain al-Abidin. Imam goes to him and says, "Oh my son, your jihad has not started yet." The third effect, if you could bear to hear, listen to this, was that Imam hears Kohram and the voices coming from one tent. Imam goes towards that tent to only find out the 6-month-old Ali Asghar has flipped himself from the cradle to the ground. As if when Imam said, "Hal min nasirin yansuruna," this 6-month-old is saying, "I'm here to help you." Allahu Akbar. Imam Hussain picks up Ali Asghar in his hands. And Imam says to Rubab, give me Asghar. Rubab knows that whoever has gone to Maqtal has not come back alive. "Oh Mawla, where are you taking Ali Asghar?" He said, "I'm only going to get some water from my 6-month-old. Imam takes Ali Asghar towards Maqtal and he says, "Oh enemies of Allah, you have come here to shed my blood, but what has this 6-month-old has done to you? Yes, I am thirsty for 3 days, but what is his fault that he is thirsty for 3 days as well? He hasn't drank a drop of milk or a drop of water. Go ahead and give some water to him. And if you fear that I'm asking for water for him so that I can quench my own thirst, I will place him onto the ground and you can come and quench his thirst." As soon as Imam said that, Imam said to Ali Asghar, "Oh Ali Asghar, you also have to give ultimatum. You also have to give itmam hujjat." Ali Asghar heard these words from Imam. He rubbed his dry tongue onto his lips. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief except the sorrow and the grief of Ahlul Bayt. Your voices are getting, I hear that you're crying for Ali Asghar. That Ali Asghar, just a few more sentences. That Imam says, "Come and feed him, bring him some water." This is where the whole enemy and the line of the enemies that were standing with arrows in their hand, for 1 second, people could not bear to see this scene. People put their heads down. They turned away, wiping off their tears, because this was the impact a 6-month-old had made onto the hearts of those stern enemies. This is where Umar Asad says to Urmala, "Iqta kalam al-Hussein," cut off the kalam of Hussein. Urmala learned what he was saying. He took an arrow which was 3-pronged arrow. He stretched it. Some Mu'arrakhin mentioned that even Urmala had difficult time striking the 6-month-old, but nonetheless he shot the arrow arrow. It came and get stuck into the heart, into the neck, into the heart of Ali Asghar. Imam picks up Ali Asghar. Imam picks up Ali Asghar. The flood of blood comes out. Imam wants to pull out this three-pronged arrow. Yes, it was difficult. It was the size of Ali Asghar. How big a 6-month-old could be. Imam, how difficult it was when he pulled out the dagger from the heart of Ali Akbar, and now he has to pull the arrow from the heart of Ali Asghar. Imam nonetheless takes the blood and he throws the blood towards the sky. Muarrakhin mentioned not a single blood came down to the ground. The reason was as he said, if a blood had come back to the ground, the whole ummah would have been served with torment. But he did not want adab for them just yet. Imam wants to come back. How is he going to tell the mother Rubab that I had taken your son for water, and what I'm bringing is back is the dead body of him? Some riwayat mention Imam did not show Ali Asghar to the mother. Instead, he dug a grave and he buried Ali Asghar in there. But some riwayat say that Imam wanted to move forward, that he took a step back, that he moved forward. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. Imam repeated these words, and then when she heard that Imam is back, Rubab, come and take your son. Little Sakina comes out running. Oh Baba, Ali Asghar is more dear to you. You went and got water for him while Sakina is still thirsty. Imam removes the daman to only show Ali Asghar is no more. Matam se.